What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is another edition of Behind the Glass, your favorite UCSS producers talking sports, talking the show, and everything else. Earl, we haven't seen you in person in a week and a half now, so I'm glad to see you are still alive and doing well. You haven't cut your hair, and everything looks pretty status quo from here. And you feeling better, my friend?
Yeah, man. I still got the lingering mucus cough, but feeling much better than what I have been. There's been a lot of things going on the personal side, man. But I'm good. I'm feeling good. It's good to see y'all faces. Hopefully, man, I'll be back in the studio sooner than later. So, but everything's good, man. There's been a whole lot of stuff going on. So,
The never-ending cycle. Ant, have you battened down the hatches and captured a cat yet before
Uh,
the snowstorm hits?
I have not. That cat does not want to be caught. Unfortunately, it just likes the food that we give it in our backyard, and we're trying to get the snowblower ready. But other than that,
Nice.
we're as ready as we can be.
Well, everyone stay safe tonight. If you have to go to work tomorrow, they are expecting 6 to 8 inches in the greater Cleveland area. So make sure you leave a little early. And remember, if you're driving in the snow, slower is better. Don't get crazy. But we got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to make this quick. We yell at Jay Bull G and everyone else on the panel for not sticking to times. Today, we will stick to times. We will not get too crazy because we all have stuff to do tonight. But Earl, you were not in today. So I'll let you start. Is there a particular offensive coordinator candidate who piques your interest more than the rest? And on top of that, and this is the real question we want to go to behind the glass, what are the qualities you hope whoever ends up being the offensive coordinator, what are some qualities they need to have, in your opinion, to be a nice complementary fit to Kevin Stefanski, to the rest of the offensive pieces, and overall into the structure of the Browns offense?
and I think they need to be transparent. I think they need to be a good communicator. I think they need to be a strong offensive mind. I think they need to be somebody that's creative. I want if he was to make a drastic change, right? The reports that we were told was they wanted to go a different course with the offense. Kevin Stefanski showed that he was able to relinquish some control yesterday by bringing in somebody with the persona of Jim Schwartz, turning over the whole defense, pretty much delegating that side of the ball with trust. And I think if you bring in a dude like a Eric Bieniemy, I think that it's a strong offensive mind. I think it's a guy that we all know from the past that Deshaun Watson wanted to work with in the past. It's a dude that has worked with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes that has a similar playing style as Deshaun Watson. Of course, it would be a lateral move going from Washington to Cleveland. And we've talked about it. We all know, Kevin Stefanski with the whole he calls plays, but I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that he wouldn't be willing to relinquish that duty. If you listen to Kevin Stefanski talk, it's not something that he's necessarily married to. In fact, before we even jumped on, I was listening back to an interview from last year when he appeared on the Ken Carman and Anthony Lima show. And he talked about that if he had it in a perfect world, he would go throughout the week, just helping install the game plan and get out the way and let those guys do their work. And so I think if you bring in a guy like an Eric Bieniemy, maybe that's somebody that you can trust to call the plays and you all collaborate on an install. But whoever you bring in here, the bottom line is, can they get the most and the best out of Deshaun Watson? And if this is somebody that's going to ultimately help Deshaun Watson become a better player, then you have to do what you have to do. Deshaun Watson is the face of the franchise, whether people like it or not. Deshaun Watson is the franchise quarterback. Deshaun Watson is that dude that's going to be in Cleveland for the foreseeable future. And so with that being said, like if you made a move like this, then it needs to be like for somebody that's considered like a powerhouse offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna pretend to. I don't have like a name. I don't follow coaches enough. But when you come to qualities, my biggest concern going into next year is Kevin and Deshaun syncing up. So I think if you can get a guy that can bridge those two pieces together, that's what I'm looking for the most, right? Like I need somebody who can go in, take what Deshaun does on the field, take what Stefanski does on the playbook, and kind of make those two meet and be happy together. Because we saw it with pretty much every other quarterback this season that Stefanski had. And we saw it a little bit with Deshaun, but I think it can still be better.
Yeah, I mean, whatever changes they make this offseason, the number one question going into 2024 is, can the Browns get the best and the most out of Deshaun Watson? So whatever decisions are made personnel-wise, staff-wise, coaching, front office, drafting. If it involves the Cleveland Browns and the end goal isn't, does this help Deshaun Watson regain the form that we traded for coming off the 2020 season, then the answer should be he's not the right guy. Earl, you mentioned Eric Bieniemy, and we talked about this on the show today. My concern with Bieniemy, and once again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on other teams and their play calls, their philosophies, but I watched a decent amount of Washington this year because they seem to be on a lot of primetime games against the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants, which ironically they were both trash, but they never ran the ball. They threw the ball more than any team in football. And you had Sam Howell in fantasy, and Sam Howell was a fantasy quarterback because they threw the ball 70 times a game. And you look at the weapons in Washington, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel is a pretty damn good receiver trio. And they had Brian Robinson in the backfield, and their offensive line was abysmal. Don't get me wrong. But it never seemed like EB changed up his philosophy to maximize the talent, knowing that he wants to send guys deep, and their offensive line wasn't capable of protecting Sam Howell for longer than 2.5 seconds. Sam Howell didn't end up breaking the NFL single-season sack record for a quarterback, but for most of the season, he was on pace to shatter that record. Then he got hurt and missed a couple of games. So I don't know if Bieniemy fits, at least in my opinion, I'm not sure Bieniemy fits what I actually think brings out the best in Deshaun Watson. But if the play is to get Deshaun Watson to the point he needs to be, and Deshaun says, I think EB's the guy who can take me to that level, then I think Deshaun has to have almost the final say in this decision. And I know that sounds crazy, giving a player personnel decision on the coaching staff, but if that's the guy Deshaun thinks can unlock him, I don't know how you say no to that.
Yeah, I know, and I heard your point. Great show, by the way. Like the show today was fire. But I heard the point earlier about Bieniemy runs the ball damn near less than any other coordinator in the NFL. And I was trying to go back through my memory bank. I'm not sure if he served as the offensive coordinator. Not even am 100% certain that he was on that staff, but I know he had been with Andy Reid for a long time. And Kareem Hunt led the NFL in rushing as a rookie, right?
I can look that up. Hold on. I'll while you're going, I'll look it up and see if he was on that staff.
And so, to me, that was something that I had kind of thought about. Like, well, I think that Bieniemy is creative enough, if he's meshed with the right head coach, to where I think he can get a little bit more balance. Like, if you got a weapon like Nick Chubb, I find it hard to believe that no offensive coordinator, no matter what their own philosophy is not going to use that weapon. And so with that being said, I think it's about, adding pieces to it. Hindsight is 2020, but looking back, I don't think we had as many weapons on the offensive side of the ball as we kind of thought we did. If we've been all the way honest, man, we got Chubb, we got Njoku, we got Amari Cooper.
That's it.
Those are the Cleveland Browns offensive weapons. We've been sold on so many other things that's just not true. And so with that being said, like if he's the dude that can, unlock Deshaun Watson to a next level or help Kevin Stefanski, as Ant said, marry what he does in the playbook to what Deshaun Watson does on the field, then I'm all for it. And that's just the name I threw out there. Every name that has been mentioned today, Zach Robinson is another dude that really, really intrigues me, if I'm being totally honest with you. And so
that's my guy.
I think there's a couple cats out there that can come in here because it's a good gig. If I'm being totally honest, well, I think it's a good gig, but it's really hard to look at it because there's so many unknown variables. I personally thought the firing of Alex Van Pelt was weird. I kind of got into some Twitter wars yesterday, but like my whole reason behind that, and I know y'all touched on this, I'm curious to know what y'all think, but maybe I'm the only one that operated in ignorance, but I can't sit up here and say that I knew for sure exactly what he did. I knew what his title was, but I didn't know how much of the game install that he had a part of. I didn't know how much say he had in, going as far as the scripted plays to start off a drive. I really never knew exactly what role he played, how much input he had, and the man never really said anything. The most famous thing he ever said was 6 weeks ago when he said Joe Flacco still got it. And then you go throughout the season, not me, not you, not Ant, not nobody else on the UCSS panel or anybody else covering Cleveland media said one thing about firing Alex Van Pelt. Yeah. And now all of a sudden when it happens, people are saying like, well, it was the greatest move. I thought that was weird. And then to hear Didi say what she said today, it kind of backed up what I already thought. There was just more to it.
Well, it's funny. The last memory we'll have of Alex Van Pelt was on Thursday, AVP saying Jeff Driscoll was going to be quarterback 2 in the playoffs. And then on Saturday, Kevin Stefanski saying, nah, it's going to be PJ, which should have keyed us off to a little bit of dissension potentially between the two, or just differing ideologies. But the AVP move, whether you want to call it a firing, a mutual parting of ways, whatever the situation, he's no longer in Cleveland. The reality is Kevin Stefanski was the de facto offensive coordinator. He was calling plays. Yeah. At the end of the day, an offensive coordinator and the offensive staff comes together, puts together a game plan. And whether you're the OC, the quarterback's coach, the running back's coach, the head coach, you guys all work on that game plan together. But if Stefanski's the one calling plays, and I'm sure has a little input in between drives from his offensive staff, and now he's gone, whoever you bring in, unless that person's going to call plays, it doesn't really change the order of operations for how the Browns move. So whether you loved Van Pelt, you didn't like Van Pelt, you had no clue what Van Pelt did on a day-to-day basis. The reality is if whoever they hire is not calling plays, it's not going to fully change the order of command for how the Cleveland Browns operate offensively. And personally, I don't think that's a huge deal. I'm more on the Stefanski side than I think most are, and I think he's a really good play caller for the most part. Everyone has their flaws. Andy Reid makes some bad calls. I'm not saying Stefanski's perfect, but whoever comes in to get their top candidate, Stefanski will have to relinquish play calling duties, I would assume.
Well, it's funny
to do that. I don't know, but to get the top guys, I think we all want. It's a hard sell if they're not going to call plays.
Would you be willing for him to give up play calling if it's somebody we wanted? Like if it was like a dream coordinator?
I would. I don't know if that's something, a lot of people got a lot of different opinions of Stefanski, right? Like some people feel like he doesn't want to relinquish control. If you hear people that talk to him more often than not, they'll tell you that he's not like that at all. I would hope that he's willing to do whatever is in the betterment of the Cleveland Browns having the ultimate success. And currently to this date, he's felt like him calling the plays give the Cleveland Browns the best chance to win. If he brings in a coordinator and he feels like that dude calling plays gives our team a better chance to have success than I do, then cool. And if he don't, cool. Because like Mike said, I don't think he's an awful play caller to begin with. It's just that this move is confusing as hell. Like if you're bringing in another OC that's not gonna call the plays, and these are just questions out loud. Are you changing your philosophy? Because I find it hard to believe that with you being a head coach, you're going to change your philosophy for an incoming OC and you going into the final year of your contract. That don't make sense. So, it's just like the overhaul of the position coaches and the OC on the offense. I really don't know if I'm mad at it. I guess when you finish 11-5 and you had the most turnovers and the offense was stagnant, you got to make some changes. But I just didn't. I guess like the Van Pelt thing, like I kind of thought the dude's job was safe because I never knew what his job was. So
it's hard to criticize when you don't know what you'd be criticizing for.
Exactly. So it's hard to criticize what you just said. If I don't know what I'm criticizing, why am I doing so?
Stefanski said last year, and Sean McVay said the same thing in the past. He always said, if I don't think I'm the best play caller on the staff, I will let whoever the best play caller is call plays. And Stefanski said that in an interview last year. Sean McVay has said it time after time after time. If they bring someone in who Kevin Stefanski feels comfortable relinquishing the play calling duties to, I think he would. But I also know how a lot of these coaches are wired, and I'll go back to my days covering Texas A&M in a sec to reference this. But Kevin Stefanski made his chops in the NFL as a play caller. Like that is how he made his chops in his mind. And I hope my coach would be this way. He probably thinks he's the best play caller in the world. And I'm sure Sean McVay thinks he's the best play caller in the world. And Kyle Shanahan thinks he's the best play caller in the world. And these guys who come from offensive backgrounds and or defensive backgrounds, Bill Belichick was still calling the defense last year. Like there are certain guys, and it's a good thing, who are so confident in their own ability. Well, why would I let someone else do it when they can't do it as good as I can? So if that's how Stefanski thinks, who am I to say that's not how you should do it? I go back to Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher, his entire career, had called plays. And it had gotten to the point where last season, which he got fired in, A&M essentially said, Jimbo, there's too much on your plate. You have to give someone else play calling duty. So he hired Bobby Petrino, the old coach of the Atlanta Falcons, the old coach at Arkansas. to come in and call plays, and they worked together on a game plan, but it was Petrino calling plays. And the offense did get a little better. But Jimbo got fired. The team wasn't great. And I heard Jimbo in an interview 2 weeks ago, on Part of My Take, said, I felt like I had no purpose. I was just running a business. I wasn't coaching football anymore. And play calling was what gave me my day-to-day purpose within this function on top of everything else I did. So I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. Andy Reid calls his own plays, probably the best coach in football right now. Bill Belichick calls his own defensive plays. Obviously, they weren't good this year, but maybe the best coach ever. McVay calls his own plays. Shanahan calls his own plays. A lot of coaches call their own plays and have success. And there's a lot of coaches who don't. John Harbaugh, Dan Campbell, that also have success. I don't think there's one right way or one wrong way. I think it depends on the situation, which is why I'm not making any sweeping judgments until I know who that OC is as to who should be the play caller next year.
Yeah, I kind of echo everything you said. I mean, until we know who that person is and what style of offense we're going to run and how Kevin Stefanski is evaluating his fourth season as the Browns head coach, then we pretty much just sitting here in wait and see mode. You know, the OC is gone. It'll be interesting what happens with O'Shea. It'll be interesting what happens, to replace the tight ends coach. I know Deuce Staley was in town to interview. So I think it's a lot that's going to be going on. It's going to be going on pretty damn fast, but interesting times, man. The Cleveland Browns never leave us with a shortage of content. So
no, and I see Evan 409 in the chat said Ryan Day's going through the same thing in Columbus. That's true. Ryan Day's looking into the fact that he might bring in a guy to call plays, so he can be more of the CEO of a college franchise now with NIL and everything else that goes along with the transfer portal, all that. He can focus attention elsewhere. There's no right or wrong answer. Ryan Day, say what you want about Ryan Day. Their offense has scored a ton of points, and he has guys wide ass open. And yeah, they have better talent, but it's not like Ryan Day can't call plays. His attention and the overall potential of his team may just be higher if he's paying his attention elsewhere as opposed to day-to-day and play calling. So there's no right or wrong answer with this.
But you know what, Mike, you said something I wanted to touch on it.
True.
Kevin Stefanski did make his chops as a play caller, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how he ultimately landed the job as the Cleveland Browns head coach. He actually interviewed for the Browns head coach the year before he even got the job based on the same merit. But just like when you get promoted at your job at work, there are certain cases and certain instances to where what you did to get that job is no longer what you need to be doing to maintain or retain that job. Right. Yeah. And I think when you become the head coach, it's not always about are you a sound offensive or defensive mind. Same old mantra from Pearl. I think it's okay. How do you lead men? How organized are you? Right? Are you a man that got structure like inside your organization? And so it's funny. I was having a conversation about Kevin Stefanski via text earlier today. And it was a friend of mine in a group chat that had responded to a tweet from Trayvon Diggs that said, we need more former players as coaches. He says, yeah, that's why I don't like Stefanski. I said, well, Stefanski was a player in college in the Ivy Leagues. But the thing that stood out to me was he was a team captain his senior year. Yeah. And so for him to be not like the, outlandish athlete, but to be voted a team captain says a lot about who Kevin Stefanski is as a leader and as a man. And I think those leadership skills need to be more applied going forward versus his sound, quote unquote, offensive mind. One thing we do know is the players respect Kevin Stefanski. Two things we know, they play hard for the man. But the third thing that we don't know that we still asking questions on is, do this man still have too much on his plate? You seen him make the necessary changes last offseason to certain parts of his coaching staff, and you seeing him moving swiftly immediately after the season is over to do the same thing. Whether this is all him making these choices or not, I don't know. But let's just see what the results hold. But we always go back to this is how these people get here. Hugh Jackson, same thing with him. Hugh Jackson was the hottest name at that time, right? And he made his mark as a play caller. Dude get here, and I don't know if you remember this, but I don't even think the man hired an offensive coordinator. And so,
wasn't Kitchens his offensive coordinator, and that's how he got moved up?
Well, I think that was like later on in the tenure.
I remember 2019,
like when he immediately took the job, he didn't even hire an offensive coordinator right away. Oh. And so, these are the things that, I get it. This is what gets you these promotions. But if you want to keep these jobs, man, you're going to have to do something a little different than what you did that got you there. And I ain't saying that's Kevin Stefanski's case. I'm just saying like that's another narrative that could be played.
Yeah, and Stefanski's the Vegas favorite to win Coach of the Year. So in his mind, he could look at it and be like, I called plays this year. I was Coach of the Year. Whoever I bring in for OC, just do kind of what AVP did. I think, honestly, I don't want to say the more important hire, but AVP was also the quarterback's coach. And whether or not the next OC will also be the quarterback's coach, I think is going to be very telling, because they had Drew Petzing, who was the quarterback's coach. He went to Arizona. Drew Petzing will probably be the first of the Browns' assistants under the Stefanski tree to get a head coaching opportunity. He's thought extremely highly of in Arizona with what he did with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals this offseason. I think next year he could be in line for a head coaching gig. AVP was the quarterback's coach this year. He's obviously gone. So you have an offensive coordinator position, a quarterback coach. There's no rule that says you can't make the offensive coordinator also a tight ends coach. You know what I'm saying? The quarterback's coach doesn't have to be the OC, so they can they can kind of fill those positions however they want. But I am very interested to see, and this is why Zach Robinson is at the top of my list. I think when the question of what qualities does this next OC need to have, I want him to be a guy that comes from a different tree than Stefanski. And even though, before I say that, they're all intertwined. Everyone's worked with somebody before, but Robinson comes from the McShay tree, which is a spinoff of the West Coast system. He incorporates pre-snap motion, McVay incorporates pre-snap motion, so he'd bring that over. And he's a young, smart guy. And you put a couple of young, smart guys in an offensive room with talent, and you've seen that in the last 5 to 10 years in the NFL. It has produced pretty high results on a pretty frequent basis. So I don't know who exactly is the perfect candidate, but I know I want a guy on the younger side, comes from a background of a successful head coach in the last few years, and knows how to utilize pre-snap motion. If I had to pick 3 qualities, those are the 3 I would look for in this hire.
Mike, you keep mentioning motion. We don't have the weapons, I think, for it, right? Unless you send Cooper.
Doesn't matter.
Or Njoku. Like, nobody was following shorts. Nobody was following more. You keep
it's the
bringing
same
up
thing
that
with play action, though, and like, you know how the Browns couldn't run the ball, but you still have to react to play action? I mean, the Chiefs used pre-snap motion the 4th most of any team in football, and their receiving core is worse than the Browns. So,
all right,
fair enough. There are advantages to using this pre-snap motion, and yes, it certainly helps. When Tyreek Hill goes in motion, the defense reacts totally different to Tyreek Hill running across the field than they do to Cedric Tillman. But hopefully you increase your weaponry for the Cleveland Browns. You can incorporate some of those philosophies, and that gives you the best opportunity to maximize Deshaun Watson and the all potential of this offense.
So it's funny Ant said that, because I heard you bring that up earlier, and I can tell, like, for you, it sounds like that's a very important component to kind of trying to like rejuvenate this Cleveland Browns offense. But I guess like I didn't look at it as in detail as you did, you know, as a visionary. I'm just looking at somebody that can unlock this offense to the next level, starting with Deshaun Watson. Like, to Ant's point, man, can this OC get the most out of the guys that's here, right? Because Chad O'Shea still got a job, man, and the wide receivers are trash. Like, Ant is telling the truth. Like, the wide receivers are garbage, man. So yeah, we can have a OC in here that can spike up the percentage of motion and how successful he is and doing emotions and this, that, and the third. But if you ain't got the talent that it can execute the play, is it really still gonna matter?
I do think like motion is the one thing where a lot of it's window dressing. You can send a guy in motion to the right to run to the left to get the linebacker to take one step out of the gap. It's the little things, but I do think, and we're getting way down the line here.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to any quarterback, and this is me just listening to podcasts and listening to really smart people who have played football. Like, half a step makes a difference. And Tyvis did the breakdown of why Ronnie Hickman was so out of place on the Nico Collins. He didn't score, but that big play in the first quarter when they burned Greg Newsome. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason Hickman was out of the picture was Stroud flipped his hips and threw the ball so quickly that he didn't have a chance to get over. There was no motion on that play, but you can use motion to get different matchups you want. It's like kind of using a pick and roll in basketball, Ant, where you force the defense to switch. I don't think motion.
And we saw how well that worked with the Cavs when they don't have the weapons to run.
I don't think motion solves it. Now you start running 2 guys every snap. Like, it's not going to solve all your issues. But I do think it puts more pressure on the defense to communicate in real time, and it leads to more mistakes. So whether or not it's Anthony Schwartz or Tyreek Hill, if you send a guy who runs a 4-3 across the field, the defensive backs have to communicate to each other. And I go back to the Super Bowl last year, the 2 touchdowns the Chiefs scored at the end where they had guys wide ass open, where they had the motion and then he turned around and came right back out. And why was he wide open? The Eagles talked about it afterwards. They thought they switched it off, but then they didn't. The defensive backs communicated switch, and they didn't actually switch. It just makes the defense think another level and think a little more. And I see the Browns offense. They rank 31st in football. Of the top 10 rated offenses in football this season, 8 of the top 10 offenses in football. Excuse me. Of the top 10 offenses in football, 8 of them also rank top 10 in pre-snap motion. So
right,
the teams that motion will have been better. Yeah.
I just feel like our weapons don't constitute the absolute need for it, but
or maybe motion makes them better because it's harder.
That's
to guard
true
and
too.
remove.
Maybe if you move Amari Cooper around, it lets David Bell get more plays. I get it. Like, that's fair.
We'll see. Well, we know they interviewed Andy Dickerson today. Zach Robinson, who we mentioned, interview with the Bears. We'll see where he goes next. We'll see if the Browns bring in anyone else to interview over the next coming days. But if they bring in someone to interview, we will break it down in depth on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Earl, we were texting last night about the Cavs. I want to spend 5 minutes on the Cavs real quick, then we'll wrap up with a Jace medical story. But the Cavs just absolutely beat the crap out of the Bucks today. Last night, Niang was balling, Mitchell was balling. It was as uncompetitive as a game as I've seen in a long time, in a game that should have been competitive. You've been down on them all season just because you said they need to prove it to me in the playoffs. I refuse to believe anything until I see it in the playoffs. Have you bought in even a little bit to this new look Cavs team, or are you still in the motion and mindset of none of this matters till April?
All right, so kind of move the goalposts a little bit, right? So I've watched the Cavs last 9 games, okay? And I know what the numbers are over the last 11 to 12 games. Look, if it's me, y'all finna hate me. If it's me, I'm trading Darius Garland, and I'm doing whatever I can in my power to keep Donovan Mitchell. I'm gonna figure out a way to incorporate Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, and then I'm gonna just build this team out with role players and core pieces, right? What I've realized over watching the Cavs during this span is kind of like the same thing with a lot of different teams that got a lot of name power, right? Or a lot of guys with a lot of potential. It just seems like everything is so forced when you're trying to get so many different people that got quote unquote names involved. Now, I know a lot of people won't agree with this take, but if you ask me, Donovan Mitchell is the overall best player on this team. And I get it. There's nothing in that guarantees that he's going to be in Cleveland for the long period of time. And people say they've talked to this person and that person. And I don't shade nobody for having their sources. But when it comes to this particular situation, ain't nobody said that they didn't talk to Donovan Mitchell one-on-one and he didn't told them this directly. And so until that's the case, I'm still going to do whatever I can to try to keep him. I think that when it comes to the players with the most trade value, I think that Evan Mobley will be number 1. Darius Garland will be number 2, but the Cavs don't plan on trading Evan Mobley, which they shouldn't. I would move Darius Garland, and I would try to get as much return as I can to build around what I have right now. I think that you're seeing young guys like Sam Merrill play. I think you're seeing guys like Craig Porter Jr. play. And you know what, man? In today's NBA, I'm trusting these young dudes to learn on the job, right? You're eventually going to get Ty Jerome back. And so, like, all wouldn't be lost, honest to God, without Darius Garland on this team. This team just looks stronger. It just looks better. And I'm not basing this off last night's performance against a Giannis-less Milwaukee Bucks team who didn't even show up. This is not what this is based off of. I've actually sat down as of recently and watched the Cavs, and this is just my opinion. It ain't trying to be hot takey. This is honestly how I feel. If I was the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, I'll be trying to move Darius Garland ass in a heartbeat and get whatever I can back and do whatever I can to try to build this team around Donovan Mitchell, Jarrett Allen, and Evan Mobley, get some core pieces, and keep doing what I'm doing. Got to give JB Bickerstaff his credit as well. If I can sit up here on this podcast and talk about how the man need to be fired and how he's not making adjustments, this, that, and the third, I got to give props for what he's given, man. The Cavs is on a 6-game winning streak. Looks like they turning their season around. But with everything I just said, holla at me in April, man, when it really matters. So,
And
I don't know who you trade. I think Garland is the right choice, unfortunately. You need like a guaranteed that Mitchell would stay, and like that's a risk that you just have to be able to take. Because I actually agree with most of what Earl said here. I think we gave the contract to Darius before we realized that I don't know if he's got what it takes to be a leader, and I think Donovan can be that leader and can be that number one guy. He is the best player. Earl's right. It sucks because I don't want to break up this team at all, but I know something has to move, and I think it would either be him or Mobley. And if they're more leaning to never getting rid of Mobley, then it's got to be Garland. Because you can't. We've seen it. We saw it with Sexton and we saw it with Garland. They couldn't have two ball dominant guards and win as well as they should have, so they got rid of Sexton and they moved on. Well, now you've upgraded one more time from Garland to Mitchell. The logical choice is to move on from Garland, I guess. Like if you can get stuff back for him that you got rid of for Mitchell, I'd take that. Like it's a sad day. I don't want to see Garland go. I really do like him. I think he's a fun player to watch, but to improve the Cavs, I think Earl's right. Everything Earl said, I think is correct.
in a vacuum, I think what you guys are saying has weight to it. But if you trade Garland, you still have to figure out how in the world you're going to play Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley together. And if this last 14-game stretch has taught me anything, or if I think I've come to any sort of conclusion over the last 14 games, it's that no matter how healthy Mobley and Allen are, this team is best suited to go 4 out, 1 in. Whether that's Mobley, whether it's Allen, I don't think this team is at its peak with both bigs in the game together, considering the fact neither can shoot. And there's just not enough spacing to utilize what you want to do elsewhere when those two are on the court together. As far as the the Donovan Garland pairing, I want to see those two together when the lane's not clogged with two bigs. And I'm not willing to give up on that pairing yet because, A, I just don't see anywhere where they trade Darius Garland. He's under contract. There's not a lot of teams that can absorb a $200 million contract without having to give up a plethora of assets. And unfortunately, Garland's an injury-prone small point guard. Like, how many teams want to trade for? And it's not a knock at Garland. It's just the reality. He's an injury-prone smaller point guard that has a massive contract. How many teams are going to give up a ton of assets for a player who you don't know for sure hasn't been durable enough to be a guy you can count on long term? And I'm not trading Mobley either yet because I think at the end of the day, he is what you need in today's day and age to be a successful franchise. And I think the Cavs have stumbled into something special. And I think it's unsustainable because you can't play this kind of lineup when you have all your players healthy.
The Cavs is the Browns.
It's kind of a blessing and a curse. Like the Browns stumbled into Joe Flacco and figured out, holy crap, this is our best. And it's very different circumstances. But Earl, I get the same kind of feelings that the best version of the Cavs is not with at least one of their core four. And that leads to some really damn awkward questions and scenarios and situations. And real quick, Jason asked JB Bickerstaff last night. And by the way, I tagged along with Jason. First time doing the Cavs media stuff. They make you walk way too much. Way too much in the Cavs. There should be some escalators or way too much walking in the media section. But shout out to the Cavs for letting me come through. But Jason asked JB, has what you guys learned in terms of play style, is that transferable when DG and Mobley come back? And JB gave like a good answer, but I just don't agree with him. He said, yeah, we've been hurt all season, so we never got a chance to have a rhythm as a team together. And now we've kind of found out what we do best. We just got to get our guys back in and they'll fit into the system. And my question to that is, where does Mobley fit into this? And that's what I don't know. So where does Mobley
I don't like that.
Plays?
Go ahead. I don't.
Yeah,
like
no,
that
I was gonna
answer.
say the caveat to everything Earl's saying being right is the caveat of Mobley should be the one to go, in my opinion. Like, I think you're right. Or Allen with a package. Like, you have to pick one of those two, I think is the correct move. But I think it will be Garland who goes. I don't know. Maybe.
Let's answer this question real quick.
Okay.
Earl, let's start and hold your thought. Or do you go first? Then we'll answer Evan's question.
All
Hold on,
right,
you go
all right.
first.
So a couple thoughts on what you're saying, right? The first thing I thought about when you said it is you're right? They are better suited 4 out 1 in. And as soon as you said, well, Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen can't do that. Well, damn it, Evan, you better learn how to shoot. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yes.
That's your third option.
You just better learn how to shoot because you are absolutely right. But to what Ant just said and what you just said, you just stumbled on basically the cheat code. This is how my team is built. This is how we are best built to play basketball, right? If JB Bickerstaff get these dudes back and you go back to playing that BS that you was playing before now, then like Evan said a couple comments before, like, yeah, or what he's saying right now, like how can you trust that going into the playoffs? Because like, and Evan might feel this too. I know you guys feel this way.
Evan hates JB for the record.
This low key is happening on accident, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. If Rubio don't retire, if Ty Jerome don't get hurt, if Darius Garland or Evan Mobley don't get hurt, we don't see the emergence of Sam Merrill. We don't see the emergence of Craig Porter Jr., right? And truthfully, Lord have mercy, can Imani Bates please get Dean Wade's minutes? Because dude ain't doing nothing, right?
Dean Wade's way better defensively than you give him credit for. I'm going to say
okay. That's cool.
We have
that's
Isaac Okoro, though.
Listen, thank you. You got Isaac Okoro, and I get it, man. You and Jason is all about, like, he doesn't know how to play basketball. The man know how to hoop. I just need somebody to go out there and get a bucket. Isaac Okoro can play some damn defense if that's what you need. All I'm saying is, man, JB low-key accidentally stumbled upon success, and I just hope that he's intelligent enough to see what's going on and maintain it. That's all I'm saying.
And so let's answer Evan's question here, because I think it is a fair question. And Evan says he doesn't hate JB. He just thinks he's an awful coach, which is code talk for I hate JB. You've been got, Evan. We know. But he says, is anyone more comfortable with JB leading a playoff series than they were 7 months ago, which is when the season ended? Are you more comfortable in JB? Or do you think, to kind of what I said and what Earl said, he stumbled into this, but is he smart enough to keep it going?
I think he did stumble into it. I don't know, because, man, like, I don't think the problem how do I put this? I don't think he can coach a 7-game series is still my concern. And I know we kept him this year, and we're gonna see. Well, I would assume they're gonna probably make the playoffs if they keep this play up. I don't think so. And it's a more I gotta see it thing, because like you can do good in the regular season. Your rotations can work, especially if the Bucks aren't gonna show up and not play and stuff like that. It's like, I got to see it. So you go into game 1, you go into game 2, and you can properly out adjust the other coaching staff. And until I see that, I don't think I'm going to feel comfortable with him at all. Like going into the
questions
playoffs.
in the playoffs are 100% valid, Ant, and that's a great point, because coaching the playoffs is not coaching the regular season. It's night and day. And I'm going to answer the question with a slight yes, but there's a major reservation on the yes. And it has to be, I have to see it before I'll believe it. And I think the track record for JB says, to this point, he has not made the requisite adjustments needed to win in the playoffs. So I'm going to tell you why I think I'm a little more confident now than I was 7 months ago, but I'm not fully on board with JB being a guy who can go wit for wit with Eric Spoelstra and the best coaches in the Eastern Conference. He stumbled into this situation with Garland and Mobley being out, but he could have pivoted and stayed the course and played 2 bigs and started Tristan Thompson for Mobley or started Damian Jones for Mobley. And instead, to his credit, he said, let's try something. Now, once again, maybe is it dumb luck when he felt comfortable with Dean Wade being the 4 because of matchups? Maybe. And if it's dumb luck, sometimes being lucky is better than being good. You win the lottery because you're lucky, not because you picked the right numbers. We all know how that works. So maybe it's dumb luck, but for 13, 14 games now, he has allowed the players he has on this roster to maximize their abilities together with this new 4-out, 1-in situation. He's playing Sam Merrill more. Craig Porter Jr.'s minutes go up and down. That one I still... I wish you'd play a little more consistently. That one, if you want to hold against him, sure. But Isaac Okoro is having the best season of his career this year. Dean Wade has found a legitimate role. They're getting contributions from guys who I didn't think could be contributors. So I'll give him his kudos right now. And I think he has done a pretty good job rallying the troops to keep this team afloat despite all the injuries. But to Ant's point earlier, he has to prove it in a playoff scenario where you play the same team 6-7 times in a row, and each game has micro adjustments that are different in winning and losing. And until he does that, I don't think it's fair for anyone to say he's definitely the guy, because so far he's not proven he could be.
All right, so based off that, you helped me make my decision. Hell no, I don't trust him at all. Because like we
Welcome to the
both,
dark side, Earl.
all three of us just said it, man. Dude stumbled upon something that's a successful formula, and I don't trust JB enough to maintain this successful formula once he get his core back. The first thing that you said he said when Jason asked him the question was, "Well, we haven't been healthy all year to get the full roster back." To me, that's a mindset of I'm already trying to go backwards to what my preseason determined plan was for this team instead of maintaining what I have. And then when you get to the playoffs, like even if you maintain what you have, teams are going to make adjustments. Like Hubie Brown said last night that JB Bickerstaff told him the goal is to get 70 shots a game, combined 3-point shots or directly at the rim, right? So you the magic number per game is 70. The Cavs has had success doing this, but you've done so against 500 teams.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Giannis not playing yesterday, which sucked, is because I thought that would have been a great test to see if this type of style of basketball can be sustained against a quality opponent that you know you're going to run into come playoff time. And so, like, not being able to get that experience, that's why I'm not using last night's game as a talking point of where I've gotten to where I'm at. You know, and it makes me nervous to know, like, man, some of these coaches is going to adjust to the 4-out-1 in, right? And then if dudes is not hitting shots like they were not last year in the playoffs, then what adjustment to that can you make? And I don't really trust JB Bickerstaff to really go out here, make the proper adjustment. I don't trust JB Bickerstaff to make this team. I mean, to lead this team overall to another NBA championship. But I have to give the dude his kudos for the recent 15-game span that we've seen. Do I trust it in the long run, Evan? Hell no, not at all.
No, what worries me is, you know, he stumbled into it, and Mike, you made the point, like, hey, let's try something. He never thought to try that when they didn't have the injuries, or at least for like a long extended period of time. And you can't walk into a 7-game series of hey, let's try this tonight. Like, you got to have a plan, like, and you got to outplan the other team, and they didn't outplan the Knicks at all.
The one counter to that, Ant, and this is where you can't just bench Mobley. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I don't think you.
It's the whole crux of this roster, and the whole crux of what JB wants to do and the Cavs want to do was pivotal and kind of dependent on Evan Mobley being able to make a damn jump shot. Think about it. They could go 4-1 out if Evan Mobley can make a jump shot. And I'm not saying this whole season kind of falls on Evan Mobley's shoulders here, but the reality is they had anticipated Evan Mobley in year 3 taking the jump to being able to make a jump shot. And is that on development? Yes. Is that on the player himself? Yes. And do you have to adjust as a coach? Yes. But there's only so much you can do when the guys that have to play, and like they can't just bench Mobley. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't just bench Mobley when they're limited.
Would you start Mobley, make Allen your backup center, and then make Tristan the 3 if anybody gets in foul trouble? And then run him with 4
Jarrett
shooters?
Allen's playing as good as any center in basketball.
I know. That's the thing.
Not
Who
as
do
good
you
as
pick
Jokic
then?
and Embiid, but like
he's definitely an all-star though. He's damn sure an all-star. I can't believe
make it in the East, but because only 2 centers make it, and Embiid's definitely making it, and Bam's making it. So
I mean to Ant's point,
but yeah,
like,
he's playing damn well.
Man, I'm never saying Evan Mobley got to come off the bench, and I get what you're saying. Like you say, Mike, like he has to play, but man, do whatever that's in the best in the best interest of the Cavs winning when it matters the most, right? Yeah. Like even if it don't look ideal, even if it don't look pretty, just get this team to where like we can be better than what we was last year. This little 13, 14, 15 game span the Cavs has been on, I respect it, right? Especially knowing that the Brown season is over. Time to turn your attention, man. Give me something to be excited about. I love seeing these young dudes play. Like if Niang, like Evan said, if Niang can score 30 a game, none of this shit even matter. That's like none of this even matters, right? Like we just out here, man. We doing what we got to do. But like we'll see what happened, man. Like I love how Donovan Mitchell is playing and leading this team right now. But when we get back down to the nitty gritty, like, I'm sorry, bro. And like Darius Garland got to go. It is what it is. It ain't popular, but it is what it is.
The trade talk, just real quick, I want to bring up a point, and maybe this is like me being just a curmudgeony negative fan right now, and I still don't have my faith left in the team. We're saying we can't bench Mobley. We're saying we can't make him a bench player and bring him off the bench stuff. has he done to earn it? I mean, if Allen's out, I don't see Mobley going absolutely nuclear like he is. Like, Allen is showing me that he deserves that starting 5 spot. And if you're going to bring Mobley back in a limited role, why not start him? Like, why not make him that bench 5?
And you know how sensitive NBA players are today. You look
Yeah,
at
I
them
know.
wrong. James Harden's going to request a trade. It's the politics of it. All right, we got to wrap
fair.
in 1 sec. But Earl, I don't know if you were listening to this part of the show. You may have left when we did the second Jace Medical read, and Bull said his biggest. I think you had just left in it because it was before the Cavs clip. But Bull essentially said, "I do a really good job producing the show, but my biggest weakness is the Jace Medical read, which hand up is the hardest read of all time, especially with some of the things they said." So I promise next Thursday, I promise Bull that I'm going to do the single best Jace Medical read he's ever seen. So here's what I need from you guys in the Behind the Glass chat. I'm going to do it Mad Lib style. If you want to help me fill in this Mad Libs for a Jace Medical read, I swear to goodness I'll do this. Email me at mlucas2@tegna.com. I will send you the Mad Libs on and I'll put a composite together of all the Mad Libs to put together the best Jace Medical read of all time. If you want to help, there's the email on the screen. It is mlucas2@tegna.com. Just say Jace Medical help, and I promise you I will send you did someone just email me already? I got a ding. Oh, no.
No, it was a Teams message.
Teams message. I got so excited that someone was
about your first read, though, right? I got a text message about your first read. So.
The Jace Medical one?
Yeah, they was like, man, your boy ain't never had an antibiotic in his life.
No.
He can't stay on amoxicillin. I was wrong.
I botched it, Earl. It was bad. I botch it every week.
Look,
I don't know if you guys.
I'm clipping this show. I say, what'd he say?
Yeah,
what the hell?
You guys can't see me because I sit next to Mike, but I mean, I did the what? I just turned and looked at him.
Bull said it's the worst thing I do, and I can't argue. Like, he's right.
It's a hard read. I was very happy
that
that Wednesday didn't have any.
Bro, man, a read is like a 3-page paper, man. That's due to your professor like tomorrow morning. I don't understand that, man.
And in their defense, they've made the read better. Like since the first read we got.
But I want your guys' help. I'm going to do it Mad Lib style. So if you want to help, please send me an email. It's at mlucas2@tegna.com, and I will send you the Mad Libs to fill out, and we will put together the single best Jace Medical read of all time. And they're going away on the 31st, so if they hate it, well, they only have one more day of us afterwards. So there you go. Help us out. This has been the Behind the Glass crew talking a little Cavs, a little Browns. We stayed under an hour like we promised. Bull is going live at 6 o'clock on his Bullpen YouTube page. So if you want to go hang out with Bull, I think he's taking a couple live callers too. So if you guys want to go,
it's going to be a weekly thing now.
And bust his if you go into Bull's chat, or if you guys go on Bull's stream, what we got to give him a code word to drop in the chat.
Everybody yell at Tyvis. Just say Tyvis sucks.
No. We love Tyvis. Oh, give him a word. Give him a word.
Man, I'll give him a word.
Put Jace Medical. If you type Jace Medical in add on the Bulls chat today, he'll bring up the story. He'll laugh at it as well, but we'll know it came from us.
Hey, and one more thing, it was a lot of pause moments on the show today. Like I'm
already working on my 2024 montage. That's a good tease, actually. We have a pause montage in the works right now, guys, from 2023 as a review. We're gonna figure out a time to show it, and you guys will have a good laugh at it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So make sure you stick it. Also, last thing, and we've got a dip, but starting in February 2nd, we officially had our training today for the new platform we are using for the team-specific shows we are launching in February. Earl's doing a Ultimate 216 show. It's a culture sports combo. G. Bush is doing an Ultimate Brown show. It'll be twice a week, 30 minutes, give or take, on all Brown stuff. Jason Lloyd and myself are doing a Cavs show, and we are still looking for someone to do a Guardian show. We got some team-specific shows coming for you guys in the next month. They will launch the first week of February. So if you thought you had enough of us, think again.
Hopefully they don't make me talk baseball, guys. If you like Guardians, send us your resume.
That'll be fun. But all right, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. It's Behind the Glass. We'll see you tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Go drop Jace Medical and Bull's chat, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. It's Friday.